Have you ever considered that the ceiling of your world might just be the floor of another? That the loudest voice in your room might be a mere whisper in the great concert of existence? This is a story about a king who ruled an empire of stone and water. A monarch whose downfall came not from a rival, but from the simple, crushing weight of a world he refused to see. In the cool, damp dark of a forgotten well lived a frog named Kale. To him, this well was not a prison. It was his entire universe, and he was its undisputed sovereign. The circular stone walls were the boundaries of his kingdom. The patch of sky above was his personal chandelier, and the murky water was his throne. His subjects were the skittering water beetles and the blind, wriggling worms that occasionally fell from the world above. His voice, a deep and resonant croak, would echo off the stones. A sound so magnified and powerful in the enclosed space that he believed it could shake the very heavens. He was Kale the Great, Lord of the Well, and in his small, circular world, there was no one to tell him otherwise. His perspective was forged in shadow and stone, and his arrogance was as deep as the water he ruled. One season, the sky began to weep. Not with the gentle tears Kale was used to, but with a furious, relentless sorrow. Rain fell for days, a deafening drumbeat on the surface of his world. The water in his kingdom began to rise, not gently, but in a churning, violent surge. Kale, clinging to a piece of floating moss, was not frightened. He was indignant. How dare the world challenge his reign with this deluge? He was lifted higher and higher, past the familiar stains and crevices of his stone walls, until, with a final, dizzying lurch, the water spilled over the top, casting him out onto a landscape he had only ever glimpsed as a distant, blue circle. He landed in a sea of salt, green blades that tickled his skin. The air was not cool and still, but warm and alive with 1,000 buzzing wings in a symphony of strange new calls. The sky was not a simple patch of blue, but an endless, terrifying dome that stretched to every horizon. A lesser creature might have been struck with awe, with a profound sense of its own smallness, but not Kale. He carried his kingdom within him. He saw the vast meadow, not as a world of wonder, but as a messy, overgrown, and poorly managed territory. He scoffed. Disorderly, he croaked, but his voice, once the thunderous decree of a king, was now a pathetic, tiny peep, swallowed instantly by the breeze. He saw a dragonfly, a jewel of iridescent blue, and thought it gaudy. He saw a field of wildflowers and deemed them chaotic. His well had taught him that greatness was contained, controlled, and loud. This place had no walls, no echo, no respect. Blinded by his own importance, he began his march, determined to find the fool in charge of this unruly domain and teach them how a true monarch governs. It was then that a shadow fell over him. It was a move in darkness, a slow eclipse that blotted out the sun. Kale looked up and saw a mountain of brown fur and muscle, with legs like ancient trees and a head that swayed gently as it grazed. It was a great bison, a creature of immense and placid power, moving through the world with an indifference born of scale. Kale had never seen anything larger than a fallen leaf. His mind couldn't process it. Tout, his arrogance, could. This, he decided, must be the clumsy brute who ruled this land, and he would not have it. Puffing out his throat until it was a taut, green balloon, Kale gathered all the air in his tiny lungs. He unleashed the most formidable, commanding croak of his life, the very same croak that made worms tremble and beetles scatter. He expected the mountain to stop, to cower, to recognize the authority in his voice. The sound vanished. The bison, its mind on nothing more than the sweet grass beneath its nose, took another step. It did not see the tiny king. It did not hear his declaration of war. It was completely, utterly, and devastatingly unaware of his existence. The world went dark for Kale, not with the familiar comfort of his well, but with the final, absolute shadow of a hoof. Kel's story is not a tragedy of malice, but a perspective. He was not vanquished by an enemy, but erased by a reality he was too arrogant to acknowledge. His true prison was not the well he was born in, but the narrow walls he built inside his own mind. He was given the chance to see a bigger world, but instead of looking up in wonder, he looked down his nose in judgment. We all have our wells, our comfortable jobs, our familiar beliefs, our circles of friends who echo our own opinions. And there is no danger in them until we begin to believe they are the entire world. The moment we mistake our puddle for the ocean is the moment we become blind. So, I ask you to look up, listen to the voices you don't understand, explore the ideas that feel foreign. For the greatest tragedy is not to live in a well, but to carry the well within you long after you have been set free.